Hey there everyone, I am CyberPro, and today I'm going to be bringing you a comprehensive guide to Speedroids, specifically a sort of Cosmic Blazar Dragon Turbo variant that we have here. Now, this video is going to be split into 5 parts. Starting off, we are going to be just talking a little bit about the deck, what it is, what it does. After that, going into the deck profile that we have here. Then I'm going to be doing a detailed breakdown of the combos that we use to bring out Cosmic Blazar Dragon on turn 1, including multiple variants based on a sort of luck factor that we'll get into later. Then after that, going to take us into Dueling Book, where we will look over all the Speedroid cards that I am not using in the deck, talking about just what the other options are that are available and why I'm personally not choosing to use them. And then finally ending off on an OCG-specific combo with some cards that just aren't currently out at the time of filming. Now, this video is definitely going to be pretty long, so timestamps for each of those parts are going to be on the screen as well as in the description below. Also, for your convenience, the description is going to have a text version of the deck profile as well as the most basic combo breakdown, because I just personally find it a little bit annoying when a deck profile video doesn't have any information in the description. So, first thing I want to get into is why I am making this video. Well, personally, I think that Speedroids are the most fun deck that you've never heard of. And because you've never heard of it, there are almost no resources for it out there. I can only imagine that you ended up finding this video because you were looking for Speedroid deck profiles or combo tutorials, and all you ended up finding were generally outdated, mostly poor quality videos that are nothing but Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro replays with no commentary, and where you had to pause the video constantly to even just see what the cards are. I wanted to change that. I wanted to be the community Speedroid guy, at least for the time being. Granted, I do want to preface this with a disclaimer that I am not an expert on this deck. I'm not even an especially good player. I'm just somebody who feels that I understand the deck and who is confident enough in that feeling to pass along my knowledge. I haven't taken this to any kind of big tournament, since I pretty much always just take Cyber Dragons to regionals or YCSs, but I have tested this out a fair amount online. Would have taken it to locals, but work schedule has gotten in the way of that for the time being. Anyways, without further ado, Speedroids. What are they? Well, Speedroids are a synchro spam sort of combo deck based around wind machines and dragons. It was used by best boy Yoyo in the anime, and if you have heard of any cards from this deck, it's probably just Speedroid Terrortop and Taketomborg. The two having, of course, been a pretty infamous rank 3 engine right up until the former was limited. But, surprise, surprise, this actually is a fully fledged deck. And while you're probably not going to be winning worlds with it, it is pretty susceptible to hand traps or any other kinds of interruptions, it is actually fairly strong. If you take this to locals, you're probably going to steal some wins with it. Of course, the main reason for that being the fact that we can put out this big boy Cosmic Blazar Dragon here. Now, is Cosmic Blazar Dragon Turbo the best way to play the deck? I don't know. It's just the way I've been playing the deck. I've been finding a moderate enough amount of success with it, and I just find it to be exceptionally fun to bring out this gigantic level 12 synchro. I do strongly encourage anyone else who plays this deck, or anyone who chooses to pick it up after watching this video, to share their thoughts and ideas with me in the comments, because I'd love to see further development on what this deck can do. Another reason to play this deck, actually, is because it's really, really cheap. I'm here playing some rarity upgraded cards, including the ultimate rare version of Speedroid Terrortop, which is fairly expensive, but almost all of these cards, if you're not looking to go max rarity, can be found at less than $1 or even less than 50 cents. So, great for budget players. Also, a few things I did want to address before we get into the profile. There's the April 2020 Master Rule revision, or Master Rule 5 if you want to call it that. That's really not going to affect this deck, since the deck does pretty much require the link for its plays, at least as far as the Blazar Turbo variant goes. So you're not going to be doing anything differently, even though you won't be technically needing a link, so to speak. And finally, Crystron Halqifibrax, or Crystron Needle Fiber, as many people know it. It's really not suited for this deck. The fact that it's a water monster doesn't gel with a lot of the effects that lock you into wind monsters. Granted, you can manage to summon it before then, but even then, it's really not going to help you. This deck tends to get a Link monster out by using up its normal summon, and the Link monster for Speedroids actually gives the deck a second normal summon, whereas Halqifibrax will just get you a tuner from the deck, and then you're not going to have a non-tuner available to actually make anything with. Yeah, you could use it to get a Crystal Wing during your opponent's turn, but you're going to end up making a Crystal Wing or better anyways by just going through the Speedroid combos. So I really do not recommend playing Crystron Halqifibrax in the Blazar Turbo variant. So this is going to be a 40-card main deck, 15-card extra deck, and 15-card side deck. The main deck, I really don't see any reason to go over 40. If you can think of a variant that benefits from that, then I would love to hear about it, but this is something where we want to see specific 2-card combos as much as we can. So, we're going to be beginning with the one and only Speedroid Terrortop. This is a level 3 Wind Machine non-tuner with 1200 attack and 600 defense. All these monsters are Wind Machines, so I'm not going to keep pointing it out after this one, but Terrortop here, when you control no monsters, you can special summon it from your hand. Then, when this card is normal or special summon, you can add another Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand, and both of those effects are heart once per turns. Now, thankfully, the limitation of this card really doesn't hurt the deck, thanks to the way the Link monster is designed. You're going to end up searching this, dumping it in the graveyard, reviving it, and reusing it just about every turn. This is a great resource generator and a central combo piece. Love this monster here. Next up, we're playing 3 Speedroid Taketomborg. This is a level 3 non-tuner with 600 attack and 1200 defense, and you can special summon this if you control a Wind monster, just for free. You can also tribute this card to special summon a Speedroid tuner from your deck, and if you do that, it does lock you into Wind monsters for the rest of the turn. Get used to seeing that on just about every card. You're not going to find a way to play this deck without locking yourself into Wind monsters. Now this is another important combo piece. This is what you're going to be searching off of Terrortop, and part of why we run 3 is actually because this is also capable of fixing your bad hands. We'll get a bit more into that later. And a little extra tidbit about this card is that its effective special summon, a tuner, actually is not once per turn at all. Only your ability to special summon Taketomborg itself via its own effect or any other means is once per turn. So it doesn't come up a whole lot, but if you normal summon this, you actually do get to use its tuner summoning effect more than once per turn. Next up, the real heart and soul of this deck, 2 Speedroid Red-Eye dice. This is a level 1 tuner with 100 attack and 100 defense, and when it's normal or special summoned, you can target a Speedroid monster you control, except Speedroid Red-Eye dice, and change its level to any level from 1 to 6 for the rest of the turn. This is not a once per turn effect at all, and that is the key to the deck, really. The whole thing that you are doing is reviving Speedroid Red-Eye dice 2-3 times per turn and using its effect over and over to manipulate levels and get whatever you want out on the field. In our regular combo, we actually only use its level modulation effect once, but we do actually summon it 3 times, so you can't go without this. You could technically work with just 1 copy, but you don't want to have to scoop from just a single DD Crow, so that's why we run 2. Plus, it's not the best to see in your hand specifically, because you are almost always going to be summoning this, at least initially, off of Taketomborg, so you want it to be in your deck instead. A little bit of a pseudo-Garnet there. Now here we have 2 Speedroid Double Yoyo. This is a level 4 non-tuner with 1400 attack and 1400 defense, and a simple effect. When this card is normal summoned, you can target a level 3 or lower Speedroid monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Here's where we really start to notice the trend that this deck has both a lot of effects based on normal summoning and a lot of non-once per turn effects. The non-once per turn effects we've of course already talked about abusing, but the normal summon restrictions are not as worrisome as you may think because the Link monster gives you a second normal summon for Wind monsters. So you pretty much are going to end up using this pretty much every turn. After turn 1, you might even be using it twice per turn. Next up, we have 3 Speedroid Horse Stilts. It's another level 4 non-tuner, this one with 1100 attack and 1100 defense, and when it's normal summoned, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Speedroid monster from your hand. Also, during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard to send a Wind monster from your deck to your graveyard. Both of those being hard once per turn effects. Now, if you're wondering why I'm playing this at 3, it's because it's another hand fixer, which I'll be going into detail about when we're going over the combo later. But you do want to see this as often as possible in your hand. It acts as sort of insurance for your combo. In a pinch, it can even get you started if you don't have one of your one-card Link 2s that we'll talk about soon. Next, we got this funny little guy here, 2 Speedroid Daiko Duke. This is a level 3 tuner with 1000 attack and 1000 defense, and you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon a Speedroid tuner from your hand or graveyard, except Speedroid Daiko Duke, and that is a hard once per turn effect. This is one of our extenders that can be essential to the combo, albeit one that takes some graveyard setup to actually utilize. You don't necessarily want to be seeing this in your hand a whole lot. The reason why we run 2 is simply because it's an effect that we're going to want to be using multiple times per duel. This really helps you establish dominance from turn 3 onward, in particular. Up next, we're running 1 Speedroid Rubberband plane. This is a level 5 non-tuner, 1800 attack and 0 defense, and its effect is that when a monster is special summoned to your field, except during the damage step, you can special summon this from your hand. That is a hard once per turn effect, and then when this card is normal or special summoned, you can target a face-up monster in the field and make it lose at 600 attack until the end of the turn. This is just a free body. We run it at 1 because it's not the best card, but sometimes, depending on your hand, you're actually going to want to search this off of Terrortop. Not much else to say about it. The attack reduction is cute, but it's not why you're running this card. Then our last Speedroid main deck monster is going to be 1 Speedroid Triad Dice, level 3 tuner, 300 attack, 1500 defense, and during your opponent's turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard to negate the next attack from a monster your opponent controls, that being a quick effect. It's a surprisingly useful little protection effect, but the main reason why we're running this is just because it's a level 3 tuner that we can summon off of Duke. Otherwise, we kind of have a bit of trouble making level 8 synchros, which we definitely want to be doing. Now, getting into our non-archetype monsters, we've got 3 Mecha Phantom Beast Tetherwolf. This is a level 4 non-tuner with 1700 attack and 1200 defense. Not going to go over the whole effect because it's not all relevant to us, but the reason why we're using this is because it is a 1-card Link 2. When this card is normal summoned as a mandatory effect, you special summon a level 3 Wind Machine token, and it also increases the level of this card by the level of that token. That effect doesn't really come up, or at least it hasn't for me, but could potentially be useful for synchro plays, but again, we're using this as link material. Then another card that accomplishes the same thing, going to be Clock Wyvern, our only non-machine monster that we run, aside from hand traps that we'll get into in a sec. This is another level 4 non-tuner, 1800 attack, 1000 defense, and when it's normal or special summoned, you can have its attack to special summon a level 1 Cyber Wind token. Again, this is a 1-card Link 2. We run it at 3 as a starter. Next up is our hand trap lineup, which is going to be pretty small. It's going to be 2 Ash Blossom and 2 Ghost Belle. Ash Blossom because it's Ash Blossom, it's ubiquitous, and Ghost Belle because we just want to make sure we're not getting hit by things like DD Crow or Call by the Grave if we're going second. These, of course, are up to personal preference, and you can make some cuts here or there to try to fit in more if you'd like to. Now, starting off the back row, I'm running 2 copies of Speedlift. This is a quick play spell, and if you control exactly 1 tuner and no other monsters, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Speedroid monster from your deck. Then neither player can activate cards or effects when that monster is special summoned. So you can't get bottomless, I guess, but the real thing to watch out for is the fact that that means you can't activate Terrortop's effect if you summon it using this card. Now, this is very much a personal preference card. You could run this at 1, you could run this at 0. I wouldn't recommend running it at 3, but a nice little thing that you'll see once in a blue moon running multiples of this is that you can actually chain a copy of Speedlift to another copy of Speedlift to get 2 summons, since you still have just 1 tuner on the board at the time that you activate both of them. But we mainly use this to get our plays started and to get Daiko Duke in the grave by summoning it from the deck and then using it as link material. Then our only other Speedroid spell, but a much better one, is 3 Speed Recovery. This is An archetypal Monster Reborn. You can target a Speedroid monster in your graveyard and special summon it. No once per turn clauses to that at all. And it has an added effect that during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it from your graveyard to add a Speedroid monster from your graveyard to your hand. Special summoning from the graveyard is absolutely essential for a combo, so I don't think I need to tell you any more about why this card is great. Never run this at any less than 3, of course. Then for our other recovery effects, we've got 1 Monster Reborn and 2 World Legacy Succession. Monster Reborn, of course, you know what it does. World Legacy Succession, you target a monster in your graveyard and special summon it to a zone a link monster points to, and that is a hard once per turn, which does mean a lot of people do run this at 1. I don't blame you if you do that. I just have it at 2 because I think the risks of that are minimal, and we do want as many recovery cards in our hands as we can possibly see. And of course, not controlling Link Monster isn't an issue because the Link Monster is essential for the combo, regardless of Master Rule. And then, after those 6 Monster Reborn effects, we have a 7th Monster Reborn, and that is Foolish Burial. Why am I calling it that? Well, because this is a Den Daiko Duke in the Grave, and a Den Daiko Duke in the Grave is a Monster Reborn for your Speedroid tuners. Nothing else you really want to be using this on, it's just an extra extender. Then our last spell is going to be Called by the Grave, because we hate hand traps. Specifically, the worst choke point is when you are searching off of your Link monster. That will end your turn if that gets stopped, so we want to see this as much as possible. And in the OCG build we'll be looking at later, we also run Crossout Designator as our copies number 4 through 6 of Called by the Grave, more or less. And then, lastly, the only main deck trap is going to be 3 Solemn Judgement, which we play because this deck is severely lacking in any kind of spell and trap negation. Plus, of course, summon negation is kind of pretty good, and we don't need to worry about our life points a whole lot. Before I go into the extra deck, just a couple things I want to address, mainly draw power. You don't want to run Pot of Desires because, as you can see, there are almost no 3-ofs in this deck. Draw power obviously never hurts. I just personally really don't like the banishing cost of Pot of Desires, and it doesn't fit the deck the way I built it, and Pot of Extravagance is also out of the question because our extra deck is so essential. Also because it's super expensive. Now, starting off the extra deck, we are using 3 High Speedroid Rubberband Shooter. This is the archetypal Link 2 with 1000 attack and downward left and downward right pointing arrows, and it takes 2 wind monsters to make. Now this is going to have 2 effects here. The first is that during your main phase, you can, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon a wind monster, and this one actually locks you into only summoning wind synchro monsters for the rest of the turn, so you're not going to be Link spamming at all with this deck. Its other effect is a pretty unique way of searching. You banish a Wind Synchro monster from your extra deck, and reveal 2 Speedroid monsters with different names from your deck whose total levels equal the level of the Synchro monster that you banished, and your opponent randomly picks one for you to add to your hand, and the other one goes to the graveyard. And both of those effects are hard once per turns. Now, obviously, there is a luck element to this. Thankfully, we build the deck to work around that, and we'll be going into versions of the combo where you do get the card that you want to have added to your hand, and versions where you can play through not getting the card that you want added to your hand. As for ratios, I'm playing this at 3 now, but you could very easily play it at 2. I just wouldn't go for 1 just in case this gets, ogred or something, or you just want to, keep using its awesome normal summon effect the next turn after it gets destroyed. Now getting to the synchros, the Speedroid synchros are all called High Speedroids, and going in order of level, we'll be beginning with High Speedroid Puzzle. This is a level 4 generic synchro, 1 tuner, 1 non-tuner, and it has 1300 attack and 1600 defense, 2 effects. First is that at the start of the damage step, if it battles a special summon monster, you can double its current attack until the end of the damage step. Not the most useful there. More useful effect is that once per turn during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because this synchro summon card was sent there from the field this turn, you can target a Speedroid monster in your graveyard, except High Speedroid Puzzle, and add it to your hand. This can obviously be whatever you feel is going to be most useful to you the next turn. I tend to add Speedroid Double Yoyo to my hand, and then if I already happen to have a double Yoyo in my hand, I'll add Taketomborg. Other than that, this is something that we're really just playing for its level, which you'll see when we get into the combo. Next we have level 5 High Speedroid Hagawita. This is another generic with 2000 attack and 1000 defense, and as a quick effect, you can tribute this card and increase the levels of all monsters currently on the field by 1 until the end of the turn. That's not an effect we're really going to end up using, although I guess you could use it on your opponent's turn to disrupt Xyz plays. There's a niche little application there. However, much like Puzzle, this has a second, much more useful effect, where if this card is in your graveyard and you control a Speedroid tuner monster, you can special summon this card from your graveyard at no additional cost. We use this for our Blazar combo, we use this to make Crystal Wing with any level 3 synchros we can put out. That recovery effect is so powerful, it is unfortunately a hard once per turn, but you're going to use it every turn. Now we've got our level 6 High Speedroid Kendama, generic, 2200 attack, 1600 defense, and this is going to be our least used card in the extra deck. I only run it as a banish target, and even then you're mostly wanting to banish a level 7, but it does come up. First of all, it does piercing damage. Then you can use one of the following effects as a hard once per turn. First is that you can banish a machine-type monster from your graveyard to do 500 burn damage to your opponent. And the other is that if this card's in your graveyard and you control no cards, you can special summon it, but you can't normal summon or set the turn you activate the effect. Pretty irrelevant, but we're not going to have it in our graveyard anyways. Next up, though, we have a much better High Speedroid monster, and that's going to be 2 High Speedroid Kite Drake. This is level 8, takes specifically a Wind Machine Tuner and one or more non-tuner monsters, 3000 attack and 2800 defense, and this thing here is a beast. When it's synchro summoned, you can activate one of 2 effects. First is to just destroy all other cards on the field, so it's a better Black Rose Dragon. And the other, even gnarlier than that, is that you can negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. Not till the end of the turn, just forever. You turn them off. This will hit your Floodgates, your Multi-Roll, and your Orcus Babel, although I don't know how much longer we'll be seeing either of those cards in the metagame with the upcoming ban list. But if that weren't enough, this also has one other effect, and it's that if this card in your possession is sent to your graveyard by an opponent's card, that's, battle or card effect, you can add a Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand. And all the effects on this card are hard once per turns. Sure, you could run this at just 1, but personally, I feel it has an effect so nice, you want to use it at least twice. Then, in between our Speedroid Synchros and our Synchro Dragons that we're about to get into, we do run 1 Martial Metal Marcher. This is a level 3 Tuner Synchro monster. It is generic, and it has 500 attack and 2200 defense. And if this card is Synchro Summoned, you can target 1 Tuner monster in your graveyard, special summon it in defense position, but negate its effects. That's a hard once per turn, and also a Synchro monster that uses this card as material is treated as a tuner while face up on the field. That's not often going to end up coming up for us because, spoiler alert, this is what we use as our tuner Synchro monster for Blazar. But yeah, lovely little card, can't go without it. Now, starting off with the Synchro Dragons, we have, of course, Yugo's Ace Monster, 2 Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. This is a level 7 Dragon Wind Synchro, 2500 attack, 2000 defense, and generic summoning conditions. So this actually has a few different effects here. First is that once per turn, when another level 5 or higher monster activates its effect on the field, as a quick effect, you can negate the activation and destroy that monster. The next is that once per turn, when a monster effect is activated that targets 1 level 5 or higher monster on the field and no other cards, you can, as a quick effect, negate the activation and destroy that monster. Both of those effects there are soft once per turns. And on top of those, there's also the additional effect that if this card's effect destroys a monster, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack until the end of the turn. So while a lot of the time you are just going to be using this either as a target to banish for Rubberband Shooter, which is what I like to use the alt art here for, or as a level 7 that you can use to make Crystal Wing, this card is in the right matchups actually incredibly powerful, sometimes even better than Crystal Wing in certain scenarios. Getting 2 negates per turn is nothing to sneeze at, and that attack gain can turn this into an OTK machine even. This one's very format dependent in terms of actually summoning it to use its effects, but you still want to be running it at 2 for this deck's purposes. Next we have 1 Clearwing Fast Dragon. This is a level 7 Synchro Pendulum monster, Dragon type, 2500 attack, 2000 defense, and it is scale 4, although it is the only pendulum that we're running, at least in this specific deck profile. Deck does have other pendulums, we'll get into those later. And it does take 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner wind monsters, specifically. Now, starting off with the monster effect, it's basically Clausolus, or Clausolus, however you say it. As a quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls that was special summoned from the extra deck, and until the end of the turn, change its attack to 0 and negate its effects. That is a hard once per turn there, and also, if this card in the monster zone is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can place it in your pendulum zone. That feeds directly into its pendulum effect, which is that you can send one face-up Speedroid tuner and one face-up non-tuner monster you control to the graveyard, whose total levels equal 7, to special summon this from your pendulum zone. That is a hard once per turn there, and the non-tuner monster actually does not have to specifically be a Speedroid. Basically, all this means is that you can, for all intents and purposes, synchro summon this from your pendulum zone after it gets destroyed. One nice little bonus, although one that will be, of course, irrelevant once April 2020 rolls around, is that this actually does let you summon it to a zone that a Link monster does not point to. The only downside is that you don't get that when you use this as synchro material, which you are likely going to do to bring out Crystal Wing. Now, speak of the devil, we are running 2 Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. Is a level 8 Dragon Synchro, takes 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner Synchro monsters. Got 3000 attack, 2500 defense, and once per turn, when another monster's effect is activated as a quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy the monster, and if you do that, this card gains attack equal to the destroyed monster's original attack until the end of the turn. If that doesn't make this thing beefy enough, if this card battles an opponent's level 5 or higher monster during damage calculation, this card gains attack equal to the current attack of the opponent's monster it is battling during that damage calculation only. You've seen this card, you might hate this card, but in this deck you are going to love summoning this as often as possible. Only downside to this is its lack of protection. Granted, you usually used to see that when running a Wind Witch engine, which you could try to do in this deck. Personally, with this variant, I don't think that works, on account of how essential the Link monster is. But worth trying. Also does make for a good banish target sometimes alongside Kite Draco, though of course this is something you want to keep in your extra deck if at all possible, for actual use. And then our final extra deck monster, the centerpiece of the deck, Cosmic Blazar Dragon. This is a level 12 Wind Dragon Synchro, takes 1 tuner Synchro monster and 2 or more non-tuner Synchro monsters, 4000 attack, 4000 defense, and it must be Synchro summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. For its effect, you banish it as cost to activate one of these quick effects. First is that when your opponent activates a card or effect, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy the card. The other, when your opponent would summon a monster or monsters, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy the monster or monsters. And when an opponent's monster declares an attack, negate the attack, and then end the battle phase. This is definitely one of the most powerful monsters in the game, at least, barring its summoning conditions. It is nearly invincible. You would have to do something like run Azathoth or Kaiju this in order to get rid of it, because of the fact that it banishes itself as cost. Even if its effect gets negated, it will still come back during the end phase. If you try to destroy it, you just negate that destruction. If you try to swing over it, you end that battle phase. And of course, you could just stop your opponent dead in their tracks, because this is a Solemn Judgement effect. Albeit spell speed too. In my opinion, this is just about everything you want in a boss monster, aside from it, of course, taking a lot of legwork to summon. But that's what this deck is all about. So you are going to be seeing this pretty consistently. Love this card so much, and of course one little bit of trivia about it is that technically you can use its effect infinitely during the end phase. If anything gets activated after this comes back, you can, of course, just negate that, and then it'll come back again, and, see the flow chart. That's going to be it for the extra deck. Now, I am going to get into the side deck. This is, of course, not something you are necessarily going to want to copy exactly. This is up to preference and is, of course, very format dependent, so I'm not going to go into these in great detail, but I figure I would at least show you. So first, we have 3 Artifact Lancia, 3 Nibiru, the Primal Being. I know I said this is more of a budget deck earlier, and Nibiru is, at the time of filming, like $10 a copy, so if you can't afford this, don't worry, just run something else. It's not the end of the world. And then pretty much everything else we play as anti-back row is going to be 2 Twin Twisters, 1 Imperial Order, 3 Red Reboot, and 3 Evenly Matched. Evenly Matched, like Nibiru, just don't sweat it if you can't afford it. Being a budget player is okay, and it doesn't mean you're not capable of winning, even if it may put you at a bit of a disadvantage. But yeah, side deck is very much subject to change. This is just what I have it as right now. Now, that is going to be it for the deck profile. Next, going to jump straight into that combo tutorial. So, what does it take to make that mighty cosmic Blazar dragon? It takes 2 cards. 1 starter, and 1 extender. Our starters are going to be anything that can make a Link 2. That's going to be Mecha Phantom Beast Tetherwolf, Clock Wyvern, Speedlift plus any Wind Tuner, or Horse Stilts plus any Speedroid other than Rubberband Plane, or even Terrortop, depending on what else is in your hand. So as far as 1-card starters, you have 6 of them between Tetherwolf and Clock Wyvern, and then you have several other combos for getting started with 2 cards. As for extenders, that just refers to any kind of Monster Reborn effect, anything to recover from the graveyard. That's going to be our Speed Recovery, our Monster Reborn, our World Legacy Succession, our Den Daiko Duke if we can get it in the grave. As mentioned before during the deck profile, we essentially run 7 Monster Reborns. More if you can get Duke in the grave by any means other than Foolish Burial, such as by using it as link material when summoning it, as well as something with Speedlift, for example. Anyways, all that in mind, we are going to start off with a version of the combo where you get the card that you want off of Rubberband Shooter's effect. So, for that purpose, these 2 cards are going to be our entire hand. And of course, this is a going first deck. Alright, now starting off our turn, we are going to normal summon Mecha Phantom Beast Tetherwolf, and it is going to activate its effect to special summon a token. Then we are going to link summon using Tetherwolf and the token, and bring out our high Speedroid Rubberband Shooter. Then we're going to activate Rubberband Shooter's effect to search by banishing a level 7, and that's going to be our Clearwing Synchro Dragon. And with that, we are going to reveal Speedroid Terrortop and Speedroid Double Yoyo, whose levels add up, of course, to 7. Now, this being the ideal situation, our opponent is going to pick Speedroid Double Yoyo, meaning that gets added to our hand, and Speedroid Terrortop goes to our grave. Next, we are going to activate High Speedroid Rubberband Shooter's other effect to normal summon the Double Yoyo in our hand, and then Double Yoyo's effect will activate, special summoning our Speedroid Terrortop from the graveyard. On summon, Terrortop is going to search our Taketomborg, add it to our hand, and then, of course, since we control a wind monster, we can immediately special summon that Taketomborg. We then tribute Taketomborg to special summon Speedroid Red-Eyed Dice from our deck, although we are actually not going to use its effect to change any levels right now. What we are instead going to do is use it to tune Double Yoyo, level 1 plus level 4 for our level 5 High Speedroid Hagoida. Then this is where the extender comes in. We activate our Speed Recovery, and we are going to revive Speedroid Red-Eyed Dice from our graveyard. Then, upon being special summoned, Speedroid Red-Eyed Dice is going to target High Speedroid Hagoida, and we are going to declare level 2, making High Speedroid Hagoida level 2. Now, level 1 tunes level 2. We're going to make level 3 Martial Metal Marcher. On summon, Martial Metal Marcher is going to revive our Speedroid Red-Eyed Dice again, this time with effects negated. And now, since we control a Speedroid Tuner, we can special summon Hagoida for free from the graveyard. Next step, Red-Eyed Dice is going to tune Terrortop to give us our level 4 High Speedroid Puzzle. Now, level 3 Tuner Synchro, plus level 5 non-tuner synchro, plus level 4 non-tuner synchro, that equals level 12 Cosmic Blazar Dragon. So ultimately, what does this amount to? It's a lot of effort and a lot of chances to get hand-trapped for a single negate. And yeah, this deck isn't perfect. You are not going to be putting out massive boards on turn 1, at least, again, playing it this particular way. What you do get is arguably one of the best negates in the game, if not the best negate in the game. And Blazar is what makes this deck what I like to call a going third deck. Sure, you end turn 1 on just this, maybe some Solemns if you happen to draw those, but what you end up with is a lot of graveyard setup. First of all, at the end phase, you're going to use High Speedroid Puzzle here to add something back to your hand, so that's going to be a double Yo-Yo usually. Then, what are you going to do? Summon your double Yo-Yo, use it to summon your red-eyed dice, make a level 7 synchro. Then what else? Well, let's say you drew into another extender, or maybe you have a Daiko Duke in the grave. Well, bring back your red-eyed dice again, make a Crystal Wing, and don't forget, with all of this, you have your Hagoita in the graveyard. That's giving you a level 5 non-tuner synchro every turn, as long as you control a Speedroid tuner. A lot of the time you end up going into turn 3 and you have Blazar, but then you can also make Clearwing Fast Dragon, Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, maybe even 2 Crystal Wings. I've had games end with 4 or 5 synchros on board when I've gone in for the kill on turn 3. It's just a matter of surviving that turn 2. And of course making sure you get some sort of combo off in turn 1. Beauty of this deck, thankfully, being that even if you get interrupted in turn 1, as long as it's not really early in the turn when you've just got your Link, you can often go and, even if you can't make your Blazar, maybe make one of these two here. But anyways, that being done there, we are now going to do the versions of the combo where instead of getting Yoyo chosen, you get Terrortop chosen by your opponent. So, let's begin. So, getting into the suboptimal versions of the combo, all this is going to take is usually just one extra card. First one we're going to do is going to be a starter and an extender, using different ones here than before, just for the sake of example, and one of our hand fixers. This one is going to be Speedroid Stilts, of course. Beginning as usual, we are going to normal summon Clock Wyvern, activate its effect, cut its attack in half to special summon a token, and then use these two to make our High Speedroid Rubberband shooter. This time we're gonna just put it on this side. Why not? Then we're gonna activate its effect to search by banishing our level 7, our Clearwing there, and we're gonna reveal the usual Terrortop and double Yoyo. But this time, let's say our opponent picks Terrortop. So, double Yoyo goes to the graveyard, now Terrortop is in our hand, the double Yoyo is useless. And basically the reason why this is bad is because we need to be able to put 2 non-tuners on the board in addition to our red-eyed dice that we're going to get from Taketomborg. So how do we rectify this? Well, simple. Instead of double Yoyo, we're just going to use Rubberband Shooter's effect to normal summon Stilts. And Stilts is going to special summon the Terrortop right from our hand, and add the Taketomborg, and functionally it's going to be the same as if we just use the Yoyo. Special summon our red-eyed dice, make our Hagoita, and activate our extender. Add that. And here's where we would just keep going, make Martial Metal Marcher, Puzzle, and then finally Blazar. Not going to keep this going, let's just go ahead into the next example. So the next hand fixer we're going to go over is actually going to be Taketomborg itself. So, opening hand is 1 starter, 1 extender, and Taketomborg. As usual, going to use our first normal summon to make our Link, Clock Wyvern, and our token from Rubberband Shooter. Next up, activate Rubberband Shooter's effect, banishing one of our Clearwings, and revealing our Terrortop and our Yoyo. And, this being the suboptimal case again, opponent is going to add Terrortop to our hand, and Yoyo is going to go to the grave. So what do we do next? we use Rubberband Shooter to normal summon the Terrortop, and since we already have the Taketomborg in our hand, we are instead going to use Terrortop to add Rubberband Plane. So next, we are going to special summon the Taketomborg, and this is the exact timing where you do need to special summon the Rubberband Plane. Since your next summon is going to be Red-Eyed Dice, if you were to summon Rubberband Plane any later, you wouldn't be able to make it level 4 to work with Hagoita. Although I guess you could change Terrortop to level 4, use it for Hagoita, and then the next time that you summon Red-Eyed Dice, you could change Rubberband Plane to level 3. But, you know, just the more convenient way. Anyways, back to the usual. Tribute to special summon our Red-Eyed Dice. Change Rubberband Plane to level 4. Use them to make our Hagoita. And activate whatever extender we have in our hand, in this case Foolish Burial. And banish the Duke. Special summon the Red-Eyed Dice and continue as usual from there. Just starting again from this point, the same is going to be really similar if instead of Taketomborg in your hand as your fixer, you end up with Rubberband Plane in your hand. You're just going to reveal these two with Rubberband Shooter, get the Terrortop to your hand, normal summon Terrortop with Shooter, add the Taketomborg, and then special the Taketomborg and special the Rubberband Plane that's already in your hand. Next up, we've gone over all the hand fixers, so the last way to fix a suboptimal hand and still get Blazar is to simply just have an extra extender. So this time our hand is going to be Speedlift, any wind tuner, really, any of our Speedroid tuners, and another extender. Since Speedlift plus any of our wind tuners is going to equal an extender and a starter, both at once, since it's going to get us a Duke in the grave. So, start off, normal summon Tri-Eyed Dice, then activate Speedlift, special summoning a Duke from the grave. Of course, if Duke is the tuner that you have, you just normal summon that and special summon any other tuner. These two are going to be your link material. Then banish, search, add the Terrortop, normal summon the Terrortop, add the Taketomborg, special summon the Taketomborg, tribute it for our Red-Eyed Dice. And this time Red-Eyed Dice is going to change Terrortop to level 4 so that they can make our Hagoita. Then this is where we're going to use both of our extenders. So we are going to start off banishing the Daiko Duke from our grave to special summon the Red-Eyed Dice and change Hagoita to level 2. And then we're going to use the Monster Reborn to bring back our Terrortop and give us the extra non-tuner body that we need at level 3. And then just, continue, make your Martial Metal Marcher. Your plays are the same from there. So that's almost going to wrap up the combo tutorials before we go into Dueling Book and go over the OCG stuff and the cards we don't use. But what we are going to do with one last tutorial here physically is what is the super optimal hand? What is the perfect Speedroid hand? And what can it do? Well, let's take a look. So, what does the perfect Speedroid hand look like? It is one starter, then not one, not two, but 3 extenders, and finally, a hand fixer just as a little extra insurance. Although if we do get Yoyo added to our hand instead of Terrortop, then I guess it'd be nice to have like a Call by the Grave there instead. But with this hand, even if we get Terrortop added, we still get to make both a Blazar and a Crystal Wing. Let's show you how it works. So starting off, Mecha Beast Tetherwolf, token, go into our link 2. Then, banish our Crystal Wing, reveal, opponent's going to add Terrortop to our hand, Yoyo goes to grave, Rubberband Shooter, effect to normal summon Horse Stilts and special summon the Terrortop from her hand, and add the Taketomborg. Then special summon the Taketomborg, tribute it, special summon our red-eyed dice, go into Hagoita, now let's use our first extender, the Speed Recovery, to special summon our red-eyed dice, and change Hagoita to level 2, make our Marcher, special summon red-eyed dice again, special summon Hagoita, make our puzzle, and of course, make our Blazar. But of course, we still got 2 extenders in hand, so let's make another synchro. Okay. World Legacy Succession, let's bring back our High Speedroid Hagoita. And Monster Reborn, let's bring back our Martial Metal Marcher. Then, level 3, level 5, synchro. Bring out a Crystal Wing. By the way, nice little tip in case you are worried about going into time or just you want to play as fast as possible to not be rude. I actually like to order my extra deck so that my combo pieces are in order of appearance. Of course, Rubberband Shooter's at the top, but at the very bottom, banish the Clear Wing at the start, make the Hagoita, make the Marcher, make the puzzle, and then Blazar on top of that. So to start off with the cards that we were not running, as well as the cards that are currently OCG only, we're going to begin with High Speedroid Chanbara here. This one is a level 5 synchro, and it can make 2 attacks during each battle phase, and at the start of the damage step, if it battles, it gains 200 attack, that being permanent. And if it's sent to the graveyard, you can add a banished Speedroid card to your hand. Interestingly enough, you can also only special summon this once per turn. Next is going to be Speedroid Domino Butterfly. This is actually something I'm currently trying out in online testing, but I don't have a copy on me. So Domino Butterfly here is a level 2 tuner pendulum with an 8 scale. And we're going to start with its monster effect here, but it's not really going to matter. It's got restrictions to what it can be used as synchro material for, not going to matter in this deck. And if it is used for synchro material after being special summoned from the extra deck, you have to banish it. What we would run this for is because when it's in the pendulum zone, we can discard a wind monster, then target one of our banished wind monsters and add it to our hand. So it's a hard ones per turn effect there, and while the cost can be a little steep unless you're putting a Duke in the grave, it is a very good bit of resource recovery for monsters that would otherwise be impossible to get back. I would run this at 1 if you choose to use it. So next we've got Speedroid Gum Prize here. It's a level 1 tuner, and during the battle phase, if you take battle or effect damage, you can special summon it from your hand. Then during either player's battle phase in which it was special summoned by that effect, you can immediately after the effect resolves synchro summon a synchro monster using only wind monsters you control, including this of course. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, and if that card was a Speedroid monster, the synchro monster then gains 1000 attack. The attack gain effect maybe could be useful once in a while, and I guess you could make Kite Drake in the middle of the battle phase, but really it's not worth running this if for the summoning condition alone. Next one here is really interesting. So this is Speedroid Malicious Magnet. It's a level 1 tuner, and it cannot be used as synchro material except for synchro summon by its own effect. Then, during your main phase, if it's normal or special summoned, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls. Immediately after the effect resolves, synchro summon a wind synchro monster using only this card you control and that opponent's monster that you targeted. And you can only use that effect once per turn, hard once per turn. While that could potentially be a really, really strong effect, this really isn't worth the summon, I would think, and it's too difficult to try to line up levels with your opponent, especially with Lynx and Xyz running around. Now, Speedroid Menko here, it's a level 4 non-tuner, and when your opponent's monster declares a direct attack while it's in your hand, you can special summon it in attack position, and change all face-up monsters your opponent controls to defense position. It just really doesn't have a purpose. The protection is only useful if you're already losing, and there's no utility that you're really going to get out of this, even though it's kind of nice to have a level 4 non-tuner that special summons itself. If you need battle protection, just use your Blazar. So next one is kind of interesting and something that you can maybe consider actually running. This is Speedroid Ohajikid, and it's a level 3 non-tuner. When it's normal summoned, you can target a tuner monster in either player's graveyard, special summon it to your side of the field, and immediately after you do this, synchro summon a Win Synchro using this card and that card only as materials. It's a weird little effect. It's a nice little bit of special summoning from the graveyard to make a synchro, but honestly, double Yoyo just kind of does its job better. You could absolutely run this if you want to, but there are better options as far as I feel. Next, Speedroid Pachinko Cart. Very simple effect on this. First of all, it's a level 4 non-tuner, and its effect is that once per turn, you can discard a machine-type monster, target one monster on the field, destroy it. Kind of okay. It's -1, unless you're putting Den Daiko Duke in the grave. I don't think this is worth summoning, really. So this one's a little strange here. Speedroid Passing Glider is a level 5 pendulum with a 3 scale. It's a non-tuner. And if there are no monsters on the field, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon it once per turn that way. And when this card is tribute summoned, you can target a level 4 or lower Speedroid monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Then there's an extra effect there where your opponent's monsters cannot target Speedroid monsters for attacks except this one. So that effect already is really not useful at all. It even contradicts itself by having one where it special summons itself and one where it is activated on tribute summon. The pendulum effect isn't anything to write home about either. It's a soft once per turn, and you can send a Speedroid tuner from your hand or face up on your field to the graveyard, then increase or reduce this card's pendulum scale by the original level of the sent monster until the end of the turn. Don't bother with this card. Scale manipulation isn't going to matter a whole lot, as you can probably tell by the fact that we don't even run enough pendulums in the TCG build to actually ever pendulum summon. Its special summon effect is a worse version of Terrortop's. Its tribute summon effect is it's the same as Yoyo's, but it requires a tribute. And the attack targeting thing is, it's Solar Flare Dragon kind of situation when you control 2 of these, but space is better reserved for better engine cards. Next we have Speedroid Razorang. It's a level 4 non-tuner. This has 2,000 attack here, but that's balanced out by the fact that it cannot attack the turn it is normal summoned. And once per turn, you can target a face-up monster on the field, change this card to defense position, and if you do, the monster you targeted loses 800 attack until the end of this turn. This does absolutely nothing to advance your plays. It's a waste of a normal summon. Do not bother. Last one before we get into the OCG cards here is Speedroid Skull Marbles. This is a level 7 non-tuner with 0 attack and 3,000 defense, and once per turn during the standby phase, if your opponent controls a face-up monster that's special summoned from the extra deck, you can special summon this card from your hand. Cannot be destroyed by battle with a normal summoned or set monster, and your opponent takes any battle damage you would have taken from battles involving this card. You can only use each effect once per turn, hard once per turn there, and if you control a face-up monster that is not a Speedroid monster, destroy this card. As usual, we just have better options available to us. Now, getting into the 2 cards that are currently OCG only, we're going to start with Speedroid Hexasaucer here. This is a level 4 non-tuner pendulum monster, and for its monster effect, both players take any battle damage from attacks involving this card, and any battle damage a player takes from attacks involving this card is halved. If it is in your pendulum zone and it's destroyed, you can special summon a face-up Speedroid pendulum monster from your extra deck. That could maybe be cool if Clearwing Fast Dragon had Speedroid in its name, but all this is going to do is fetch you main deck monsters. Unless you're really desperate to get off that effect by popping it with your own Twin Twisters or something, it's not going to do enough to advance your plays.
Its pendulum effect, however, is, in a way, a better version of Speedroid Domino Butterfly here. You can target one of your Wind Synchro monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, return it to the extra deck, and that's a hard once per turn effect there. That's actually pretty good there. I don't know if you can really justify making space for this, but if you're really hurting for that kind of recovery, I would consider it, just for that pendulum effect. Also forgot to mention scale 6, but again, you're not likely to even beat pendulum summoning with this deck. Now, finally, the real star of the OCG-only cards is Speedroid Marble Machine here, level 2 non-tuner pendulum with scale 1, and its monster effect is that when it's normal summoned, you can add a Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand. Locks you into wind monsters, doesn't matter for us, and it's a hard once per turn. So as you'll see a bit later, this is actually what enables us to have a one-card Blazar combo, provided, the right card is chosen by our opponent when we use Rubberband Shooter. But, this is a typical kind of archetypal searcher. The fact that it takes a normal summon isn't too terrible, considering, we get 2 of them per turn. Definitely run this at 1, but you can even try experimenting with 2. Just maybe not 3, because it isn't a good way to start your combo. And then, definitely lesser here is its pendulum effect. Once per turn, when your defense position monster is targeted for an attack, you can change it to attack position, and it cannot be destroyed by battle this turn, even if Marble Machine leaves the field. Yeah, you're only going to end up using that if you really, really want to try pendulum summoning here, and even then, it might not ever go off. Like I said before, your best battle protection is Blazar already. So, now that we've gone over every card here, including the ones that are OCG exclusive, let's go ahead and get into our OCG deck profile and show you that one-card combo. So, showing off our OCG build here, it's going to be mostly the same as far as engine cards go. We've got our 3 Tetherwolf, 3 Clock Wyvern, 2 Duke, 2 Yoyo, 3 Horse Stilts, 2 Red-Eyed Dice, 1 Rubberband Plane, 3 Taketomborg, and 1 Terrortop, plus 1 Triad Dice. Then our usual extenders of 3 Speed Recovery, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 Foolish Burial, only 1 World Legacy Succession here for space, and of course got the 3 Solemn Judgement. The main differences are going to be, first of all, a new engine card here, Speedroid Marble Machine. Secondly, in addition to the Call by the Grave, we also have 3 Crossout Designator, which is the reason why you see 1 Ash, 1 DD Crow, and 1 Nibiru, since those are our biggest problems here. Crossout Designator is going to be so good for this deck once it comes out. Side deck is not really going to matter here, but I did throw in a Ghost Ogre for when you do come up against a deck that uses that. Extra deck is going to be a bit different here. We're running only 2 Rubberband Shooter, and we are running 1 High Speedroid Chanbara as a banished target. That's going to be part of the 1-card, currently OCG-only combo that we're going to talk about in a second here. Now, this is a build that I have done some pretty limited testing with, so while I understand how the 1-card combo can go, I'm certain there are other possibilities that I'm missing out on. So, in this case, just due to a lack of experience and in the interest of time, I'm only going to be going over the best case scenario with the 1-card combo. Anyways, let's get into it. Alright, so now we've got a different version of the combo. This one is currently OCG only, at least until we get Speedroid Marble Machine here, and this is actually a 1-card combo. Granted, the card that you're going to have to rely on drawing is Speedroid Terrortop, but it is going to be pretty nice to pull this off when you're able to. So, start off, of course, by special summoning our Terrortop, and then we are going to search Speedroid Marble Machine. Then we are going to normal summon Marble Machine and use its effect to search our Taketomborg. Now special summon our Taketomborg and then tribute it. And in this case, we are actually going to special summon Daiko Duke. Now, Duke and Marble Machine are going to become link material here. Bring out our Rubberband Shooter. And then we're going to activate Rubberband Shooter's effect, banishing our High Speedroid Chanbara here. And what we're going to reveal is a red-eyed dice. In this case, we're going to add them to our hand to make this work, and our double yo-yo. Then we're going to hope that our opponent here chooses double yo-yo. So go ahead and send red-eyed dice to the grave there. And we're going to use Rubberband Shooter's effect to normal summon the yo-yo. And then use Yoyo's effect to special summon our red-eyed dice. And the rest is the same from there. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching my in-depth guide to Speedroids. I'm not an expert on this deck, but I hope I was able to impart some good knowledge for you, and I hope you enjoy playing this. See you next time.